I just had this insanely long Zoom session with Olivia where we were going back and forth about different theories, and she had to hang up, but of course the second she hung up I had another theory, and we were talking about the Lost Prince of Hell from Crescent City, and we were thinking of who it could be, and like, I think it's Azrael. It makes sense to be Azrael. Like, people are terrified of shadow singers. Reese says they're super rare because what if there's only 7 of them? What if there's only the 7 princes of hell that have shadow singer powers? At the High Lords meeting, when Azrael attacks Eris and then he finally lets go, he leans into his ear and it says, you know, like, Eris blanched further. I'm wondering if he said, like, you don't want to mess with a prince of hell. And not only that, but there's the instance of when they're talking about the prison, and Azrael says, like, oh, I can go, they know me there, they know who I am, they know what I am. Like, they know what I am. And then there's that whole scene with Koshi, when him and Cassian save Eris from him and the queens, and Koshi's like, I've been waiting all this time to speak with you and you don't even want to talk to me? And like, why would Koshi the Deathless want to talk to someone random? He would want to talk to a prince of hell. Oh my god, and the other 2 princes of hell that we know are named Adis and Apollyon, so the A-name thing, yes. Although another one of them is Thanatos, but Thanatos is in Hewn City. That's why I'm convinced that Hewn City is a layer of hell. But then again, so would the prison. And the prison would be Azrael's layer of hell because he has said, they know what I am. My mind is going crazy right now because I've just looked up shit from Crescent City and now I'm all over the place. Me and Olivia were also talking about how the Autumn King might be Baron's brother that he thinks is dead, and it would make a lot of sense as to why he forced Lady Autumn to marry him, because maybe he was trying to be more powerful than his brother. Which would also make sense since he always pits his sons against one another. And I happened upon Hypaxia's wiki. She's a necromancer. I was curious because of CC3 coming out and how the House of Flame and Shadow is like necromancy, and we've been talking about all these people that have like died or been presumed dead, and it says that her necromancy power, like, the only time she actually like uses it, she says it has to be the autumnal equinox, and that cannot be a coincidence, okay? It can't. And if you guys watched my Nesta and Eris video, I talked about how Nesta was confirmed a witch, and like, she's a witch, but she also had necromancy, because remember, she like raised the dead in the Bog of Orid, and oh my god, this just confirms how I was like, autumn is like the court for witches. Like, when you think of fall, like, you think of Halloween, you think of witches, and now I'm just like, I'm more convinced than ever that Nesta is gonna end up in autumn, especially if she gains her powers back. Like, even if she doesn't gain like her death powers back, she's still a witch. She's still a witch. As a prince of hell, the horn on Bryce's back, maybe it called to Azrael, because an old prince of hell, Peleus, I think it was the owner of the horn before he was killed by Apollyon for killing Thea, his lover, which means, Adis was Thea's lover, and Apollyon killed him, which was the other prince of hell. But if Adis was Thea's lover and Adis was a prince of hell, that means Fion's general was actually a prince of hell, and that means Thea and Adis killed him. And he must have been Peleus. Theon must have been Peleus, who took down the Asteri. Which tracks, because the Dread Trove belonged to Theon, because he's the one that forged it with the cauldron and with his queen, which would have been Thea. And so the horn and Gwydion, the sword, ended up in Crescent City. And Bryce has both right now. And it's said that she has Thea's light inside of her. So if that's true, Azriel would have been drawn to her. And that's why he's the one that found her at the end of Crescent City and brought her to the River House. Also, I just want to add that Lanthus, that Nesta met in the prison with the gold skin and the gold hair and the black eyes, is Apollyon, a prince of hell, who actually ate one of the Asteri females because, like, when he was in battle with her, he defeated her and then he ate her. And when you go to the wiki on Lanthus, it says how, like, soulless and purely evil and without conscience he is. And that makes a lot of sense because they're described physically in the same way and they're described like mentally in the same way. And so that would make sense why he was locked up in the prison. So apparently Apollyon, aka Lanthus, fought Peleus, another prince, and for like 3 days, and then he eventually ended up killing Peleus. But before he could kill him, Peleus was the one who summoned the horn and used all of its strength to banish Apollyon and the rest of his brethren back to hell. So the prison is hell, or at least one layer of it, because that's where Lanthus ended up trapped, which means there are other people in hell that are the other princes. And maybe that's how they know Azriel, because Azriel was like reincarnated. Maybe he's Peleus reincarnated. And somehow Adis made it back through the rift to the Crescent City world to be able to talk to Bryce. And I don't know. I'm wondering how that works. Like, where is the portal in the prison between the two worlds? Because there has to be one. And just as a little aside, it makes so much sense now that Lanthus was the one that showed Nesta the fourth dread trove, which would be the horn, in his little vision thing that he gave her, because he was the one that was defeated with the horn. But then he also called her Queen of Queens, and then she stabbed him to death with ataraxia. So even though Bryce is said to have the light of Thea in her, I'm wondering if Nesta is actually Thea reincarnated, as Azriel is Peleus reincarnated. And if that's so, and Adis shows up in the Prythian world, and he realizes that Nesta is his reincarnated lover, what the hell is that gonna, like, what is gonna happen? Also, it makes sense that Azriel is Peleus incarnated, because remember, Peleus is Theon, who was the king that defeated the Asteri and then created the Seven Courts. It makes sense because since Peleus, aka Theon, made the Dread Trove, and they made all these weapons with the cauldron, Azriel is the one in possession of Truth Teller, the knife, which is the twin to Gwydion, the sword that Bryce has. And this is why Truth Teller has never failed him, because he is actually the reincarnation of the king that defeated the Asteri. And as I said before, this is also why the horn called to him, and how he was the one that found Bryce, because he was the creator of the horn, and of Truth Teller, and of Gwydion, and of the Dread Trove, etc. But I think where Azrael / Pelias / Fionn created the weapons, I think Queen Thea actually created what Prythian knows as the 3 Dread Trove, and that's why Nesta can wield the Dread Trove and not Azrael, but Azrael can wield Truth Teller.